The mortgage office in Grand Rapids was quiet. The soft clatter of keyboards echoed across the room. The faint smell of fresh printer toner filled the air. The loan officer slid the last stack of papers across the shiny wooden table. My heart was beating fast. "Vesper Alden, congratulations on your first home," she said, smiling. Her voice sounded a little loud in the quiet office. I looked at the chairs in the waiting area. They were empty. No family waving, no proud smiles, no camera flashes, just rows of empty chairs. My coworker Miri snapped a quick photo of me and smiled. "Where's your family?" she asked. I forced a nod. "Yeah, they're running late," I said, even though I already knew they weren't coming. Later that evening, I went back to my apartment. I tossed my keys on the counter and checked my phone. My dad had sent a message. It made my stomach twist. "Send $50,000 so Kale can buy a new car. Can't have him losing to you. No congratulations. No, how's the house? No questions at all about me. Just asking for money." I stared at my phone. Slowly, I opened my banking app. I sent exactly $1 and typed, "for gas," in the note. I didn't know if it would make him notice, but it felt like a tiny act of control. The moment the transfer went through, something inside me shifted. I called a locksmith and watched him install a new deadbolt on the front door. It was solid, strong, and unyielding. For the first time, the door was only mine. Nobody else could come in without my permission. It felt amazing. Safe. Powerful. If your family ignored your big moments and only asked for money, type your state in the comments. Let's see how many of us finally locked them out. For nights later, red and blue lights flashed through my blinds. I was in the middle of heating leftover pizza in the microwave. The beep had barely faded when someone knocked hard on the door. My heart jumped. I peeked through the peephole. 2 police officers were standing in the hallway. One was adjusting his radio, the other holding a notepad. I opened the door, still with the chain latched. "Evening, ma'am," said the taller officer. His badge shone under the fluorescent light. "We received a welfare concern from your father. He said you changed the locks and haven't returned his calls." I unhooked the chain and stepped back. "Come in," I said. The apartment smelled faintly of tomato sauce and cardboard boxes. I gestured toward the kitchen counter, which was clean, and my work laptop sitting next to my house papers. The shorter officer looked around, stopping at a framed letter from my real estate company. "Looks like you're doing fine," he said kindly. I shrugged. "Just setting some boundaries," I said. They asked normal questions. "Any stress lately? Health problems?" I gave simple answers. "New homeowner. Busy schedule. No problems." The taller officer nodded. "Your dad sounded worried. He said you might be struggling." I almost laughed. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about control. As they turned to leave, the shorter officer paused at the door. "People panic when they lose control. Happens more often than you think." I closed the deadbolt behind them. Solid and final. The pizza was forgotten on the counter. The quiet felt safe now, like a big warm blanket. I finally chose to rest. That night, sleep didn't come easily. My mind wandered back in time. I remembered when I was 16 and worked at the Subaru parts kiosk after school. The place smelled like motor oil and rubber. The lights buzzed overhead. I counted spark plugs and wiper blades while smiling at customers, even though my feet hurt in cheap sneakers. Every paycheck went straight to Mom's account marked Kale's expenses. Kale's gaming console, his fancy jeans, that ridiculous light-up skateboard he had to have. All of it came from my hard work. Dad would pat my shoulder. "Family invests in the future," he said. I believed him. I thought my work was building something we all could share. But the future always belonged to Kale. His soccer cleats came before my textbooks. His spring break trips replaced my SAT prep courses. I would drag home after double shifts, my hands smelling of brake cleaner, and find him sprawled on the couch, controller in hand. "Thanks, sis," he muttered without looking up. Dad never noticed the grease under my nails or the exhaustion in my face. To him, I was just the engine keeping the golden child's life running. By the time I was 18, I had saved enough for night classes and online courses. Dad clapped my back. "Proud of you, kid. Keep sending those checks. Kale's got potential." I kept wiring the money, telling myself it was temporary. I graduated with honors, got a real estate job, closed my first deal, and bought my house with every overtime shift. I missed holidays and birthdays, and still, no one came to celebrate my accomplishments. The officer's visit replayed in my mind. Their calm professionalism stood against Dad's panic. He hadn't called once since the closing. "No, how's the house? No, do you need help moving?" Just silence until I changed the locks. Then suddenly I was in a crisis. I walked barefoot across the hardwood floor. The hum of the city came through the window. For years, I had measured love in payments and favors, hoping that if I gave enough, they would see me. But the scale never balanced. I stopped at the counter and stared at the pizza. The quiet wasn't empty anymore. It felt earned, like finally taking a deep breath after holding it in too long. No more footsteps I didn't invite. No more demands through cracks. I took a bite. The cheese burned my tongue, but it grounded me. Tonight, the apartment was mine. That was enough. The next morning, I brewed coffee and checked my credit monitoring app out of habit. My heart stopped. A new hard inquiry had appeared, dated 3 days earlier. I tapped on it. An auto loan for $50,000 at Horizon Federal Bank showed up. Co-signer listed as Stephen Alden. My pulse hammered as I scrolled through the details. Subaru WRX delivery scheduled at the Grand Rapids outlet. The address matched our old family home, not my apartment. This wasn't a mistake. Dad had used my social security number, my birth date, and everything from documents I had left in their safe years ago. I dialed the bank's fraud line, hands steady despite the rising fury. Horizon Federal, this is Mark. How can I help? I gave my information. There's an unauthorized auto loan on my account. He pulled it up. Yes, ma'am. Opened in person at our Breton Road branch. The primary applicant provided your ID and SSN. Co-signer Stephen Alden signed as well in person. Dad had walked in and forged my life for Kale's toy. Freeze it immediately, I said. Send me the full application packet, everything. Mark confirmed the hold and promised the documents within 24 hours. I hung up, my hands shaking, and stared at the screen. The loan showed pending transactions, custom rims, performance exhaust, dealer fees. All for a car Kale didn't earn. I needed proof he couldn't deny. Michigan allows one-party recording, so I opened the app labeled Proof and called Dad. He answered on the fourth ring, TV noise in the background. Finally decided to talk, he barked. Explain the $50,000 auto loan in my name, I said. Silence, then a short dismissive laugh. Just building Kale's credit. You're doing so well with that house. Share the wealth. Family helps family. You forged my signature, I said. Another laugh. It's an investment. He'll pay it back once he's on his feet. Stop being dramatic. The line crackled with his certainty, as if I were the one out of line. What's mine isn't yours, I said, ending the call before he could twist it further. The recording automatically saved 23 seconds of his confession. I replayed it twice. His words were crystal clear. Evidence. I transferred the file to my laptop, renamed it Proof to Stephen, and backed it up to the cloud. Next, I logged into the bank portal again and downloaded every page of the application. Dad's looping signature stared up next to a photocopy of my old driver's license, expired from college. He had kept it. The branch timestamp matched a Tuesday I had spent in meetings across town. No way I could have been there. I printed the documents at the corner copy shop. The pages were still warm from the laser printer. The clerk raised an eyebrow at the thick stack but said nothing. Back home, I slid it into a plain manila folder with metal prongs. On the tab I wrote, bank file in black marker. It joined the house closing papers on my desk. Two worlds colliding. The coffee had gone cold, but I drank it anyway, bitter against my tongue. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about audacity, about Dad thinking he could erase my boundaries. Kale probably sat somewhere revving imaginary engines, oblivious to the cost. I closed the laptop, a folder heavy in my lap. Everything was documented now. Airtight. Whatever came next, I finally held the cards. On Saturday at noon, I drove into the Subaru car lot where Kale used to work during the summers. Now he wanted to buy a car, and it felt like he thought he could take anything he wanted. The sun was bright in the sky, making the asphalt shine like a dark mirror. The new cars lined up in rows, sparkling and clean, their stickers shining in the sunlight. I parked near the service area with a folder on the passenger seat, feeling nervous and heavy with the papers I carried. I waited quietly. Dad's big truck rolled in 15 minutes late. Mom was sitting in the front seat, looking tense, clutching her purse tightly as if it were armor. Kale lounged in the back, sunglasses pushed up onto his forehead like he was too cool to care. They all got out. Dad fixed his polo shirt, straightening it over his stomach. Mom's eyes darted around the busy lot. Kale yawned and stretched, looking bored. I stepped out of my car, holding the folder tightly in my hands. Let's talk, Dad said, pointing to the showroom. It was cooler inside, air-conditioned, and smelled faintly of new car leather. I shook my head. Here is fine, I said. Cale leaned casually against the truck, tapping his thumbs on his phone, not even looking at me. Mom glanced around at the lot, at people driving the cars, at families taking pictures. This isn't the place, Vesper, she said softly, but I ignored her. I opened the folder anyway and pulled out the bank papers. The auto loan was for $50,000. My name and address were on it. Dad's jaw tightened. It's a misunderstanding. We'll pay it back, Mom said quickly, her voice high and worried. Your father meant well, Cale said, smirking. Yeah, chill. It's just a car. I didn't listen to him. I slid the papers across the hood of Dad's truck. Dad's signature was bold on the application, and my social security number was written below. He had signed it himself at Breton Road, pretending it was okay. Mom's face went pale. Stephen, you said it was approved, she whispered, almost trembling. Before Dad could respond, my phone buzzed. It was a FaceTime call from Aunt Ophelia. I answered, putting the phone on the dashboard so she could see. Her tanned face filled the screen, smiling warmly as usual. What's this about a parking lot meeting? Your dad is just proud of his boy, Vesper. Cale deserves nice things, she said, laughing a little. I turned the phone toward the papers. He deserves them on my credit, I said. Ophelia squinted at the screen. That's not how it looks, Stephen, she said, frowning. Dad leaned closer to the phone. Ophelia, it's temporary. She's overreacting, he said, trying to sound calm. I pressed play on the recording app. Dad's voice came through the speaker, clear and confident. Just building Cale's credit. You're doing so well. Share the wealth. The whole car lot went quiet. A salesman stopped talking mid-pitch. A couple with small kids paused, staring. Cale's sunglasses slipped down his nose. Mom whispered, "Turn it off." Aunt Ophelia's eyes went wide. You recorded your father? She asked, shocked. The call ended abruptly, and the screen went black. Dad's face turned red with anger and surprise. You had no right, he said, his voice tight. I gathered the papers from the hood. The bank would no longer treat this as a simple family favor. Cale kicked gravel in frustration. You're embarrassing us, he yelled. A mechanic wheeled a WRX past us, the engine roaring loudly. Dad grabbed my arm lightly. Think about your mother, he said. I have, I said, pulling free. Mom's eyes glistened with tears, but she stayed quiet. I slid the folder into my car, keeping it safe. As I backed out, the salesman watched, shaking his head. The car lot shrank in my mirror, the figures of my family looking small and awkward beneath the fluttering dealership flags. Driving home, the air conditioning blew cold against my skin. Dad's words of denial echoed in my head, but the proof of what had happened sat beside me undeniable. Mom's silence hurt the most. She had chosen sides without a word. Cale's entitlement, Aunt Ophelia's blind defense. It all fit a pattern I had ignored for too long. Grand Rapids traffic thickened as I merged onto the highway. I rolled the windows down, letting the wind tug at my loose strands of hair. I didn't need to explain anything anymore. I had the folder, I had the evidence, and I was ready. At a red light, I glanced at the papers again. The bank packet included ID photos, Dad smiling, and my old license clipped beside. He had planned this, timing it with my house closing. But plans crack when someone looks closely. The light turned green. I accelerated, the city blurring past. Whatever fallout came, I was ready to face it. 2 weeks later, Cale posted an Instagram countdown. New WRX in 24 hours, along with the dealership's hashtag. He was grinning beside a blue Subaru, keys dangling from his fingers. Comments poured in from friends with cheering emojis. I scrolled from my couch, staring at the bank's freeze notice still open on my laptop. They hadn't backed down. The next day, Horizon Federal canceled the loan entirely. They said there were problems verifying the information. An email explained that officers would go to the dealership to review the documents. I closed it. I didn't need to attend. The dealership would handle the rest. Inside the showroom, the lights reflected off polished floors and shiny chrome. Cale stood by the WRX, arms crossed. The salesman clapped him on the shoulder. Dad hovered nearby, checking his watch, looking tense. Mom sat on a leather bench, flipping through brochures but clearly nervous. Customers walked around, some snapping discreet pictures with their phones. 2 officers entered first, their uniforms crisp and sharp. A bank representative followed, wearing a gray suit and carrying a tablet. Good afternoon. We are here to verify financing on this vehicle, said the taller officer. Cale's grin faltered. It's my car. Papers are signed. The bank representative scrolled through the tablet. Loan number ending in 472. Primary name, Vesper Alden. Co-signer, Stephen Alden. He turned the screen toward Dad and Cale. Signature mismatch and address discrepancy. Dad stepped forward. There's been a mix-up. We can clear it up, he said, trying to sound confident. The officer raised a hand. We just need the original documents, he said calmly. Cale dug through his backpack, pulling out crumpled forms. The representative compared them to the digital copies. The co-signer line didn't match the authorized user. Voices dropped around the showroom. A family with toddlers paused, their phones raised. Mom stood. Officers, this is a family matter, she said softly. The shorter officer shook his head. Bank policy requires on-site confirmation for disputed accounts, he said firmly. Dad's voice rose. This is harassment. We are paying customers. The representative read aloud. Unauthorized co-signer on identity documents. Gasps went through the showroom. A teenager filmed it, whispering to his dad. Cale pushed the kid away. Turn that off. The salesman backed away, hands raised. Folks, let's take this to the office, he said. But the officers stayed. The car remained on hold. A tow truck drove into the service bay. The driver hopped out with heavy chains. Cale lunged at the car. You can't take it, he shouted. Dad grabbed his arm. Son, calm down, he said. The bank representative packed up the tablet. All further steps would go through legal channels. Customers formed a loose circle, phones raised. The tow driver hooked the WRX, the engine silent under the lift. Cale slumped against a display pillar, eyes wet, fists clenched. Mom dabbed her cheeks with a tissue. Dad argued with the officer, but words were lost in the echoing showroom. By evening, clips of the event were online. Grand Rapids dealership drama, car being repossessed. Views climbed past 50,000 in just a few hours. Comments poured in. That's the Alden kid. The bank doesn't play. Cale's countdown post was mocked online. By midnight, the video had topped 300,000 views. Strangers tagged the dealership, demanding answers. The salesman posted an apology thread, saying it was a system error. Cale deleted his account, but archived posts remained. Dad's truck sat in the driveway next door, dark and empty. The fallout spread faster than any argument we had ever had. The envelope in my car felt heavy. I carried it to the dining table, sliced it open with a butter knife, and spread the papers across the surface. Horizon Federal vs. Stephen Alden civil suit for a $50,000 auto loan, plus $15,000 in attorney fees, court costs, and accrued interest. The hearing was scheduled downtown at the district courthouse, small claims docket. Dad filed his own response, no lawyer, just cramped handwriting. I logged into the virtual courtroom from my home office. Microphone on, camera off. The feed displayed polished wood panels, an American flag, and a judge in a black robe. Dad appeared on screen, wearing the same gray blazer from holiday photos, collar stiff. The bank's lawyer advanced first, showing slides on the projector. The loan application had inconsistent signatures, an audio recording of Dad admitting, and failed SSN verification. The clip played Dad's voice, just building Cale's credit. The judge leaned forward, glasses catching the screen's glare. Dad cleared his throat. Private family matter, Your Honor. No fraudulent intent. The lawyer followed with still images from the bank branch, showing Dad handing over forms. Timestamps matched Dad's calendar, not the co-signers. Dad said, I plan to cover it. The judge reviewed all exhibits, asked 2 brief questions, then ruled in favor of the plaintiff. Full amount plus costs. Just 8 minutes. Dad's feed froze mid-expression, eyes wide. By noon, his employer knew. Human Resources sent termination paperwork, citing a policy breach about personal integrity. Colleagues boxed his belongings, a coffee mug, a framed photo of Cale, and a nameplate. Security escorted him to the parking garage, badge disabled. No farewell. No reference letter. Cale withdrew from community college halfway through the semester. Grades collapsed. He picked up night shifts at a warehouse on 44th Street, scanning barcodes under fluorescent lights. Polo shirt, steel-toe boots, conveyor belts stretching endlessly. Paychecks barely covered half the rent for a shared studio with 3 roommates. Mom worked extra hours at the medical billing office, skipping book club and early grocery trips. The house on Fulton grew quiet. Mail stacked up. Grass grew tall. Neighbors noticed the missing sedan had been repossessed. Monthly bank notices came in, deductions from Dad's severance and joint savings. The balance drained steadily. Cale's warehouse deposits barely touched the utility bills. Mom's overtime helped, but credit cards reached their limits. The family life had completely changed. The house was quieter. Tension filled the air. Each night, I would look at the folder, the evidence, and feel the weight of truth. Even though it was hard, I knew I had done the right thing. I had stopped something wrong, even if it hurt my family. And slowly, even in this quiet, broken time, I felt like the responsibility of truth rested safely with me. The court said our family owed money, and that made the house complicated. We couldn't put up any for sale signs because there was too much risk. My dad started selling our things online to get money. He sold golf clubs, power tools, and an old video game console. People came to buy them and paid in cash. Some of them haggled over the price, but we still got the money we needed. I saved the final payment confirmation and closed the account. It didn't feel exciting or happy, just done. One evening, my mom slid a plain envelope under my door. There was no name or return address on it. Inside, neat handwriting said, "We're sorry. Call when ready." I read the words twice. Then I put the paper in the shredder. I didn't want it in my life. Life went back to normal. No shared accounts, no shared money problems. It felt clean and quiet. The court papers and the insurance papers went into a locked drawer. Winter ended, the snow melted, and the roads cleared. The distance between us stayed the same. 6 months after selling the house, I carried the last box into my new home. I wrote "New Start" on the box with a Sharpie. The front door smelled like fresh paint. The hardwood floors were cool under my feet. I set the box by the stairs and looked around. The house felt open and ready. Sunlight came through the big windows. Dust floated in golden beams. I put the old deadbolt lock on the living room wall next to the new keys. The old brass lock was shiny in its own way, and the new metal keys were bright and polished. Miri came over with takeout food and a 6-pack of drinks. She unpacked plates and talked about listings. She smiled and said, "Perfect blank canvas," as she stacked glasses. I agreed. This house really felt like a fresh start. I stayed very busy at work at Keller Williams. I had open houses on weekends and contracts to look at during the week. I helped a newlywed couple look at a house like mine. I showed them all the updates and explained everything carefully. They signed the papers that night. The wife said, "Thanks for helping us," and I smiled as I handed over the pen. I felt proud for helping, but also like my life was moving forward. I deleted all family contacts from my phone. Dad, Mom, Kale, Aunt Ophelia gone. All numbers, social media profiles, everything was erased. My phone stayed quiet. No notifications, no messages, no reminders. Peace filled the silence. Miri threw a housewarming party that Saturday. She invited friends from work and the people we ran with. String lights hung across the patio, and the grill had steaks sizzling. Guests mingled, laughed, and told stories. Someone made a toast to second chances. Later, I went to the deck alone. I could see the Grand Rapids skyline far away. The city hummed below, cars and a passing train moving quietly. The breeze smelled like the lake. My phone stayed dark. The quiet felt earned. It felt like my own. Work kept me busy. First-time buyers, retirees, investors. I helped a veteran go through house inspections and celebrated his closing with coffee and donuts. He said, "You made this possible," and I nodded, thinking of my own journey. Every house I helped someone buy or sell felt like I was taking back control of my life. It felt good to do something that mattered. At the party, people asked me about the deadbolt lock. "What's the story?" someone asked. I smiled and said, "It's a symbol of boundaries." People nodded and smiled, then we moved on to music. Miri nudged me and said, "You really did it." Her words were simple, but they carried a heavy truth. Routine started to settle in. Morning runs, late emails, weekend staging houses. My house became warm and welcoming. Succulent plants sat on the windowsills. Local art decorated the walls. Neighbors waved at me during walks. I even got invited over for coffee. I learned that family isn't just the people who share your blood. It's the people who stand beside you, who help you, who celebrate your victories. That lesson was hard, but it was worth learning. Clean breaks heal fastest. 3 months later, I got a random LinkedIn message from one of Dad's old co-workers. The profile photo looked familiar from holiday parties years ago. The message said, "Hey, Vesper. Long time. Steven moved to Florida and is staying with his sister-in-law. Kale works at an Amazon sort center. Thought you'd like to know." I read the message while eating a turkey sandwich at my desk. The office was quiet, except for the sound of typing nearby. I pictured Dad on a fold-out bed at Aunt Ophelia's house, following her rules about dishes and lights out. I pictured Kale wearing a neon vest, scanning packages, taking only 15-minute breaks. Beeps from the scanners filled the air. Quotas climbed. Hours passed quickly. Another message came saying the bank problem was fixed. I logged into the account. It was paid in full. Credit was clear. No alerts, no money owed. I saved the message thread but didn't reply. From the window, I watched a delivery truck across the street. 2 drivers carried boxes, just like Kale did now. I didn't feel jealous or sad. Their lives were theirs, and mine was mine. I stayed focused on my work, on my houses, and on my life. I cleared my browser history and dimmed my laptop screen. The messages disappeared. Updates came without being asked for. I didn't owe anyone a response. Lives went in different directions. Family isn't just a line on a birth certificate. It's the hand that signs with you at the closing table. I learned that by staying quiet, blocking calls, and moving on. Obligations disappear when people don't give back. In the garage, I dug through storage bins and found the old Home Sweet Home plaque. The edges were worn from years of use. I grabbed a level and a drill and stepped outside. The mailbox post was blank and ready. I tightened the screws and hung the plaque straight. It stayed steady in the sunlight, greeting the street. It felt like the house was ready for a fresh start, moving forward, without the weight of old problems. The house felt alive. The sunlight, the breeze, the smell of fresh paint, the cool floors under my feet. It all made me feel calm and strong. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I had learned hard lessons, made clean breaks, and found peace. Family wasn't just who was born into your life, it was who chose to be there with you. And now, at last, I had a home that was truly mine.